Greetings and salutations. This is the 90-Degree Director Series for 2014 featuring Dr. Kevin O. Davenport, hosted by the Marching Podcast and sponsored by Block Band Music and Publishing. And now, without further ado, 2014 Directors Podcast Series, you may now take the field.
Good evening, and how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. Welcome to the 90-Degree Director Series show. I am your host, Joe Beard, and happy to be of service for you tonight. Today is June 22nd, 2014. We're 12:30 here on the West Coast and 3:30 here on the East Coast. I had to double check that. We appreciate all those listening live and or listening in podcast form, whether through Blog Talk Radio, our website, Twitter, Facebook, iTunes, or any other form of social media you may have. At the end of the broadcast, if you decide you like the show, then we appreciate a donation to the network, if you feel so in your heart, of course. Just simply go to themarchingpodcast.com, click on the donate button to help improve the show and help build our scholarship fund. Okay, so welcome back to part 2 of our outstanding 90-Degree Director Series show with our expert, Dr. Kevin O. Davenport. What's going on today this afternoon, sir?
Oh, it's a glorious day, beautiful day outside, and beautiful day to talk band.
That's outstanding. I was just about to ask you how the weather there over there was, and be more, as they say, but nice over there for you, huh?
Absolutely gorgeous. Not too hot. The humidity's down. I tell you, it would be good to be outside doing this.
That's what's up. That's outstanding. We also want to bring in the president of Block Band Music and Publishing, Mr. Rashad Waters. What's going on, Rashad?
That is founder and CEO.
Founder and CEO, visionary, great arranger, and men's choir director, the one and only Rashad Waters. Yes, I had to double check my script there. What's going on today, man?
Hey, man, it's all good, man. I hope you are doing great as well, both of you gentlemen.
Well, that's great. Well, it's outstanding to always talk with you guys, and we'll get the show rolling on here. We want to give the listeners a time here to get ready for their questions, but also want to let you know about the great book out there. I've seen a lot of posts, a couple posts on Facebook about the book since our part 1 show that we did. Rashad, could you go ahead and let us know how we could get the great Dr. Davenport's book?
Yes. Well, Dr. Davenport and I have made a great connection here. His book is available, which basically talks about how to have a fantastic band program of any kind, but particularly for those of us who look at the showstar band directors. It's a fantastic source here. And that book is available it is available other sources as well. But when you order it through other sources, you don't get Dr. Davenport. When you order it through Block Band, you get Dr. Davenport. The book is available for $25. And with that, you get 1 free year of Dr. Davenport's consultation, which I'm extremely excited about because, he's counseling me in a lot of things. The name of the book is Practical Techniques for Building the High School Marching Band. For those writing it down again, that's Practical Techniques for Building the High School Marching Band. And when you're interested in this, simply contact us at blockbandmusic@gmail.com.
That is outstanding. That is outstanding. You guys make sure you go ahead and contact blockbandmusic@gmail.com so you can get your hands on this book. Really good book, really outstanding book. I know I'm not a director, but I'm just going to go ahead and just get me a copy just so I can have the knowledge, per se. Probably will help us out even with the podcasting or us just discussing band, I'm sure, just because we can throw in some extra insights about the things that we know that we should be building the program with. So super, super excited about that book. Thank you very much, Rashad. And Block Band for not only sponsoring the podcast, but also giving the opportunity for young band directors out there to grow. What we love here at themarchingpodcast.com. So let's go ahead and get it rolling. Let's go ahead and get our first commercial break out the way. We want to just preface the show. Last month in part 1, we talked about preparing for competitions. Got some outstanding highlights and bullet points there from Dr. Davenport. I know I was really excited for him to help me with my nervousness. It even helps me. I even applied it a little bit to my teaching. So, I mean, we already know something that is helping out with just overall, because this is teaching. This is, education. So just the whole fact about preparation, helping with that nervousness, definitely something I'm going to apply, because I know I get nervous before class teaching, but the preparation there about what I'm going to say, what I'm going to lecture, I was able to take that information from Dr. Davenport. So thank you, sir, with that. And we're excited to get it rolling with concert band literature, how to select your concert band literature. I'm sure that we have going to have an outstanding conversation today. We had our little green room discussion and got longer than we expected. So we hope we can fit all of the great knowledge here in this 90 minutes. And please make sure that you call in at 718-664-6025 with your knowledge and your questions for Dr. Davenport. So let's go ahead and get these great sponsors out the way, and we'll give the mic to Dr. Davenport when we get back. Tonight's show is sponsored by Block Band Music, bandhead.org, and the Edge One Productions. Let's take the time to hear from them now.
From photo shoots to graduation pictures, from probates to band footage, from pageants to yard shows, there's only one team you can count on, the Edge One Productions. Visit theedge1.com and trust me, you won't be disappointed.
Need to write music and drill? Get it on the field. Outfit your band. Keep your administrator happy and still have a life. Encountering drama in the process, ain't nobody got time for that. Let Block Band Music assist you with musical arrangements and drills to fit your band, and also the equipment, gear, and accessories to keep the visuals, music, and marching on point. Contact blockbandmusic@gmail.com and see how this worldwide minority-owned business can uplift your band.
What if there was a Facebook for bands? Wait a minute, there is. Bandhead.org. Bandhead.org is a social network for HBCU show bands. You can create your own profile and post videos, photos, and comments on bandhead.org. Need somewhere to post events, audition schedules, job postings? Check out bandhead.org. Are you recruiting for talent? Go to bandhead.org. Bandhead.org, a social network for bands. The Marching Podcast Network is a network of podcasts with a purpose to inspire, educate, and show positive images in our community. Our network produces podcasts about college marching bands, business, health, finances, college preparation, spirituality, instrumentation development, along with one-on-one interviews with strong role models in our community. All podcasts are interactive and invite you, the listener, to call in and speak. Looking for a podcast network that educates and inspires to make our world a better place? Then listen to us at blogtalkradio.com/marchingpodcast. Check out our website at themarchingpodcast.com. Tweet us at marchingpodcast or follow our blog at blog4.themarchingpodcast.com. The Marching Podcast, changing the world through positive interaction.
All right, All right, we are back, and we are ready to kick off our Part 2 concert band literature here with our expert, Dr. Davenport, and founder and CEO, Rashard Waters. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you, Dr. Davenport. Again, we are appreciative of your time today, and we'll go ahead and give you the mic to get started, sir.
Okay. Well, once again, glad to be here. Good afternoon to everybody that's listening. Before we actually talk about the literature itself, I want to just talk to you about the philosophy of your program and how concert band fits in. Let's start by me asking you these 4 questions. Are you or do you plan to be a band director or a music educator? Number 2, do you plan to develop band members or musicians? Number 3, is your band extracurricular or co-curricular? And number 4, are you developing a band or a band program? Now, all 4 of these are things that you need to consider while you're building a band. It changes the path or direction that you're going to go with your program. Hopefully, all of us plan to be music educators and not just band directors. And I'll get into the definition of those things a little later on. But if you're building a band program instead of a band, there's a strong need for concert band. Concert band in a band program is the center of the program. Everything, including marching band, should grow out of concert band. Concert band is the in-school part of your program. It needs to be all-inclusive of all students that want to take instrumental music, and it needs to be required for all of your instrumentalists in marching band. Why? That is where we're able to give a concentrated musicianship education. That's where we have a chance to spend time working on students' skills. Concert band, if done correctly, and it is all-inclusive, will actually give you an opportunity to recruit for your marching band. Now, a quality concert band program requires study and preparation from the director. It never stops. You have to always be growing as a musician and growing as a band director, as a conductor. And you have to grow in order to train your students properly. How do you get trained that way? Many of us don't leave college, even if we are leaving with a music education degree, with a thorough knowledge of concert music that is actually going to be usable when we get into the high school classroom. For that reason, you need to find ways to better band director by learning how to study, what to study, and how to go about choosing your concert band literature. What kind of things should you study? One thing is to look at buying the book series, Teaching Music Through Performance. It comes with a series of CDs as well, and it gives music. It goes over music on all different levels of performance levels. For that reason, it gives you a very wide variety of things that you can use in concert band and how to prepare individual pieces. The second thing that you need to do is go out and study a library of strong concert bands playing and performing music that you may be able to do with your band. Of course, at the beginning, you may not be able to play it on the level that they're playing it, but we want to make sure that you yourself, as well as your students, get a chance to hear, to get a full grasp of what that concert band sound should sound like and give you something to aim towards. The third thing that you need to do is to go out and find workshops and conducting clinics that you can attend to improve your conducting skills and to improve your knowledge of how to teach individual instruments and ensembles in order to be the most effective director that you can be. Some things need to be done before you even pass out concert band literature. Every student in every class in your band should always be in a technique book. It can be a technique book, something like Accents on Achievement or Standards of Excellence, or the Rubank Band Method. but you should always be trying to improve your students' technical skill on their instruments. Secondly, your students should have a good ensemble warm-up book. There are several of these that I would recommend. One is Superior Bands in 16 Weeks by Quincy Hilliard. And one I had a lot of success with was Symphonic Warm-Ups for Band by Claude T. Smith. These two books allow your group to play in many different keys, allows them to hear the sonority of a concert band, and most importantly, I discovered that it taught the students how to move their lines against each other, how to listen for the melody in pieces, how their secondary melody or harmony fit in that overall balanced pyramid when trying to play music. Now, I do want to go back for a minute and have you understand that everything I just talked about, although we're talking about concert band, helps to make your marching band stronger. As an adjudicator, one thing that I continue to hear are bands that do not know how to good intonation, that do not think about proper balance as an ensemble. We get too many times where individuals are trying to play as loud as they can instead of thinking of their place within the ensemble. Groups that articulate poorly, a lot of times because they're playing so loud that they can't articulate, and groups that don't phrase well. Now, that does not help you on the competition field because all those things are generally on the score sheet. And the band that can go out there and accomplish all those things are the ones that win. Now, where do we accomplish those things? We know usually when we're dealing with marching band music, we're dealing with music that has been written either by the band director himself or someone else to them, has not been professionally arranged or composed. And for those reasons, we don't get a lot of articulation marks, dynamic changes, phrasing marks in our music and marching band. But those are things that our students have to learn in order to be strong musicians. So concert band, we talk about marching band and concert band season. There is no concert band season. Concert band goes on all year long. Either you're preparing the general elements of musicianship or you're preparing the proper skills for the keys of the music that you're doing, or you're preparing your students to learn how to articulate and read rhythm. So there's always some preparation going on that can be used in both marching and concert band. Now, when we talk about what things that you need to consider when you are selecting music for your group, there are a group of things that you have to have in your criteria when you go to select music.
Dr. Davenport, yeah. Before you go into that, can I go back over the two other questions that you framed the lecture with? The first one was, are you planning to be a band director or a music educator? Is your program extracurricular or co-curricular? What was the third question?
Do you plan to develop band members or musicians? And maybe now will be a good time to talk about these things.
Yeah, I'm gonna because I'm posting them here in the chat room. I'm sorry for all the listeners. If you're listening live and you have a Blog Talk Radio account, you can log into our chat room and leave your comments there. I'll be posting the bullet points of the lecture here. So I just wanted to just go over those last two. Just so that the people there, a couple of folks there in the chat room, our homie Mario Warren is out there, so I want to make sure he has these.
If it's okay,
so go ahead.
I want to stop it. Let's stop and go back over those four things. That might be a good time to think a little deeper after they've had a chance to marinate.
Okay.
The first thing I asked was, that's if you're already a band director, or do you, if you plan to be a band director, do you plan to be just a band director or be a music educator? Now, here's the difference between the two. A band director will prepare his students to do marching band performances. But from an individual basis, he's not preparing musicians. And what do I mean by that? We know that in every band room, there are people that are sitting in that band room that once they hear the piece 4 or 5 times, they can play along. And they may be able to add some volume to the group, and they may be able to imitate or mimic the rhythm structure, and they may, through simply playing things over and over again, actually learn the fingerings for notes. But if you took them and put them separately, can they survive as a musician? And you know, I was so blessed to come out of a high school that my band director, who was a music educator, came out of Shaw University under Edward Graves, and we learned enough music theory in band class that my first year of music theory in college, I tested out. My second year in music theory was a breeze because everything that they went over, we actually learned in high school in general band class. So we came out of high school as musicians, and we had 35 students come from Norfolk and Portsmouth, Virginia at the same time and go to Tennessee State, and all came out of grade 6 concert bands. Well, when we got there to play the music at Tennessee State, it was a breeze. Because when they spit the music in front of us, we could read it. So I can say that my high school band director was a music educator. Everybody can reflect on whether their high school band director was a music educator or only a band director by how they were able to survive at the next level very quickly. You know, some of us went to college, and yeah, we survived, but it took a while to be able to catch up with what was going on the college level.
Right.
And so much of that was because we were not prepared properly coming out of high school to be able to survive on our own as a musician. A lot of the major college programs require you to do an audition before you go in, and that audition is going to require you to play a prepared piece, but it's also going to require you to sight read. And being able to sight read can be the difference between getting a college scholarship and not getting one, or getting a place on the field and not having a place on the field, or a uniform for that matter. So we owe it to our students to be music educators. Okay?
Sounds good. And what was the last one? Because we got about, let me see here, we got about, looks like 7 minutes left in the segment. So we I guess we can polish up these 4 and then come back with what was there after the first commercial break. So I have out on the chat board. Are you planning to be a band director or a music educator? You just gave us some points on that. The second one I had is your program extracurricular or co-curricular? What specifically? Now I know extracurricular is like after school. I'm just like that's always what I thought extracurricular after school, and co-curricular is that like boy and girl?
No.
So could you explain that to me?
Co-curricular deals with how you, and more importantly, how does the school feel about your program? And I'm going to tell you where this comes up. If you consider your program after school, program extracurricular, then what you do is you end up putting your program in a place where it gets thought of the same way as athletics or any other club or organization in the school.
Oh, okay.
And because of that, it's not taking it seriously. Because, that's just an after-school co-curricular, extracurricular thing. So they don't want to put funds toward it. They don't want to take you seriously as far as scheduling your students in the right classes. But if you're a co-curricular, if you can show the school that your program has enough variety and there's enough education going on that you are meeting standards that educators have to meet within your classroom, they take you more seriously. You know, and one of the big struggles out there is getting our kids in the right class, in the right levels, with the right instrumentation to help them grow. So we have to, from the beginning, And sometime I have to talk to you about my dissertation and what I discovered there, because it's a very good justification for band programs. So co-curricular means that we are doing things in the classroom that meet educational standards for music, but they also have ramifications on what students learn in other classes. They're interconnected.
Because it's just as important as learning the vowel structure about direct objects and all that. It's just as important versus instead of like the latchkey program or the chess club or something like that.
Right.
Right. Okay. That's tight. Okay.
We got to remember that ancient Greek education, one of the 7 domains was music. So music was just as important as English or math or any of the others, and it still is, because there's a connection with all of those subjects within band. And we have to express it that way, and we have to be serious about our craft and what we're teaching in the classroom, so that the school is serious about what we're doing as well. Real quick, I want to mention
that's outstanding.
I want to mention the difference between a band and a band program. In many schools, we're finding out that they're trying to build bands.
And this is develop band members or a band program?
Well, this is, are you developing a band or a band program?
Or a band program. Right. Okay. Right. Okay.
In a band program, you're developing all aspects of instrumental music. Marching band, concert band, jazz band. You're giving your students a wide variety of education on how to play in those various venues. However, as many schools have gone to just doing marching band all year, well, see, that's a band. That's not a band program.
Mm-hmm.
And you're stifling the education of your students because you're not giving them that wide variety of experience. So we need to really consider, are we, and a lot of times because band directors fear what they don't know well. We play in concert bands, but that tends to be very intimidating when trying to conduct a concert band. And it takes, like I said, it takes individual effort to go out and learn what you need to learn to become a good concert band conductor. You know, so we need to consider, what are we doing? And all 3 of those, of course, affects whether we're putting out band members, people that can ride on the coattail of others, that can be a part of a unit and get by, or we're developing musicians that for the rest of their life can pick up a piece of music and play it without having to hear it first, because they know the notes, they know how to finger, they know rhythms, they know how to articulate.
Yeah, it definitely helps with confidence, too. I mean, I was thinking, just because I was thinking just being a part of, like, we all were part of major programs, and we all were attracted maybe by the aristocrat of bands or the Sonic Boom or the Force, but then you then got to the program, and then you had to be a part of the other ensembles. You know, those brass ensembles helped me just because I was able to read my part a little bit better in a smaller group.
Absolutely.
And I could hear myself, you know, and it helped in the marching band because I was like, hey, you know, I recognize that rhythm, you know, or something else I'm seeing other than the regular band music. So that's really cool too. I'm definitely connecting with what you're saying. And we got 3 minutes before our commercial break. And what was our fourth question?
Well, I think we just went over them. You know, do you plan to develop band members or musicians was that last question. And teaching musicianship is just so important for our kids. I mean, like I said, if they plan to go to college on music scholarship, they need to be musicians, because sooner or later it's going to show itself. I know at Tennessee State we had a lot of going down the line by the band director, listening to each individual play their part. And I saw some people really embarrassed in that situation, and it became very obvious who had developed the confidence of a musician in high school and who had not. You know, the first things that they taught us were probably 3 or 4 or 5 marches right off the bat. And if you couldn't read, you were in trouble right from the beginning. And one of the audition pieces or 2 of the audition pieces to even get a uniform to participate in marching band was that you had to, on camera, by yourself, play your part. Now, you know, the march that we played, if you can't read, you're in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
You don't pick them up by ear. You have to be able to read the part to go in woodshed before you can ever memorize it. You got to learn it. And when you're being put on the spot like that, it will show very quickly whether or not you were a band member in high school or were you a musician.
That's outstanding. That's the perfect stopping point. We can get to the part 2 where we'll go into the individual bullets that you were getting into, and then I'll be able to follow with each point here in the chat room for with some people. Mario's approving. He's catching up. He's caught up with us, so everything's good. Thanks to all the people in the chat room for your support, and all the people here listening live. Part 1, I'll just throw this out there. Part 1 was the most listened to broadcast here in Marching Podcast history. So we appreciate Block Band Music and Dr. Davenport for that. So let's go ahead and get these next commercials out of the way, and then we'll come back with part 2.
Okay. This is Avery McFadden, Jackson State University graduate, son of Boom Trump Funk Found 1997. You are listening to the 90 Degree Show here on the Marching Podcast Network.
Band directors, have you ever found yourselves in this situation? Showtime is quickly approaching. Your budget is quickly disappearing. Your music choices are narrowing. The equipment condition is wearing and your stress level is mounting. Stop what you're doing and contact Block Band Music and find out how we've got you. Check www.blockbandmusic.com, providing music, equipment, gear, and accessories to show style, core style, and traditional bands worldwide.
From photo shoots to graduation pictures, from probates to band footage, from pageants to yard shows, there's only one team you can count on, the Ed.D Productions. Visit the-ed1.com and trust me, you won't be disappointed.
Hey, band heads, this is Christy Walker. I'm alumni of the North Carolina A&T Blue and Gold Marching Machine and one of the creators of the fifthquarter.com, and you are listening to the 90 Degree Show on the Marching Podcast Network.
Okay, guys, we are back, and we are ready to get more in depth with our concert band literature with our resident expert here, Dr. Kevin O. Davenport. We appreciate, again, all those listening live in the chat room or wherever you may be. So now, Dr. Davenport, we'll go ahead and get into, I know that you got into it a little bit in the previous segment, so we're ready to get into, also I remember you talking about some literature that you suggest that would be good for the band. I'll definitely get with you, and then we'll put that out in a blog release of those of that literature that you suggest. So so you guys make sure you go out to the blog, the number 4.themarchingpodcast.com, and follow our blog, and we'll be posting that information that Dr. Davenport gives us. So I can give you the mic again, sir, for part B of our podcast here.
Okay. Well, we've talked about the philosophy behind concert band and what is necessary, how the directors to prepare themselves and their band to play concert band music. The next thing we need to get into, and I'll kind of try to go step by step through this, and we can discuss each one. If you all want to jump in, be my guest. When you're selecting concert band music, let me once again say that most of us coming out of college don't inherit a band program that can play the music that we played in college. And so many times, new band directors make the mistake of putting the music that they played in college in front of the high school bands. And this can lead to actually some very bad memories for students, particularly if we try to take that music to adjudication. I myself made the same mistake. My first trip to Concert Band Festival was not very successful, and it was because I tried to use the same music that I remembered from college band. So let me tell you some things that you really need to consider when you select your concert band music. And you need to be honest with yourself and your band about this music up front. Number one, you want to be honest about the musical maturity level of your group. That this music maturity level depends a lot on you. Now, the first year may be hard because you're just getting in and you're starting to get things organized and get your program running. But you need to continually evaluate what musical maturity level your band plays on. And you have to be, once again, you have to be honest with yourself. If your students can't play 16th notes well, you want to be honest with yourself about that and not go out and try to grab music with a lot of 16 notes if you have not prepared them to play that music. A lot of concert literature are in keys that we may not have regularly covered in class, and you need to make that consideration too. So be honest. Know where your band is, what level they're on, and pick music that, first of all, meets their level and maybe stretches them just a little bit. We want them to continue to learn, to continue to strive to do music that's a little more difficult. But we don't want it to be so far out of their reach that they get frustrated and want to quit because they're not having a positive outcome with it.
Now, Dr. Davenport, what you're talking about falls in the line as my experience as director because, at Hampton, I was a part of the Symphonic Winds group there, and, we played lots of great pieces like Grayson's Dance and, so many pieces that I couldn't even begin to go through them. But when I arrived to my first classroom with 2 trumpets and 1 trombone and 15 drums, Grayson's Dance wasn't really working. And I had a huge library there already of music from probably, I guess, been purchased between 1970-something and 1990-something. But I wasn't familiar with any of that music and didn't know which of those songs would work, which of those compositions would work for my band program. So how do you find what pieces, will work?
Now, you bring up that point. Understand that, I was under the baton of the great Barney Smart myself. And I know the music that he played. And there are very few high school bands that I know of that can handle the music level that he was on. The same thing at Tennessee State. We did a lot of grade 6. One of my favorite pieces at Tennessee State was, what's the name of it? I can't believe I just went blank. Well, one of my favorite pieces is Incantation and Dance, which is grade 6.
Right.
If your kids can't play scales, there's no need to even pull out Incantation and Dance. If your flutes can't play that low C below the staff, there's no need to pull out Incantation and Dance. Right. But you have to go through that evaluation. Now, really, and I'm going to sound kind of like a father here. What you've got to do as a band director to prepare yourself to know this music, if you're a band director, you should have just as many concert band pieces on your iPod as you do hip-hop pieces. So in the case where you had a library, you knew you had one, but you didn't know the music in there, I would have begun to flip through what was there and going out on iTunes or Amazon and starting to download those songs and put them on my phone or my iPod and take some time to sit down and listen to them. That's how you learn. You get the score out, you find a recording, and you start studying. And that's necessary. That never stops being necessary in a band program.
That kind of goes along now with the the change in times, man. It makes me wish I had started directing a whole lot later because, when I was directing, the internet, I don't think YouTube was even out.
Well, so, when I started directing, the internet wasn't out. If you wanted to find music, you had to go to a clinic or, a workshop and buy the CDs or the records there.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't have it at your fingertips.
That's funny.
So
That's funny you guys say that. You know, I remember, too, it wasn't, too much of even following music. I remember there was a Blockbuster Music where you could actually go and listen to a CD before you could buy it. Like, that's what I remember,
Oh, yeah. So, in this day and age, starting a career now is a breeze because all the music that you could want is right at your fingertips. I go on YouTube all the time and especially listening to some of these bands out of Japan playing concert literature.
Mm-hmm.
Can't believe, you should hear some of the elementary school bands are playing grade 4 and grade 5. Wow. So there's so many examples out there now of places where you can get recordings of the music that you want to play that the job is so much easier now. It's a matter of sitting down at your computer, setting aside time each day, buying scores, and just listening and going through it. It takes study. I mentioned yesterday in our conversation that band directing should be considered a practice because you're always having to study to get better, to stay ahead of your program. So it's really important to know the maturity level of your group and then have knowledge of pieces that fall on that maturity level. There used to be a technical series called First Division Band Method. I don't know if you remember that. And one of the great things about First Division Band Method was it came in 4 different methods of technique books, increasingly harder. But when you got a certain distance in the book, it had several pieces that had been arranged. You're only using the notes and the rhythms that your band had learned up to that point. So it was great as you advanced your group that you at least had a few concert pieces that you could now do.
Mm-hmm.
There's still music out that exists like that, but you have to go and study to find out where they are. And you mentioned number 2 in selecting music, and that was you have to know your band's instrumentation. You can't just go pull a piece of music out because you remember playing this or it sounded good and put it in front of your group, but it has an oboe solo in it, and you have no oboe.
Right. Can't be a problem.
Or I have a song that has 4 distinct French horn parts, and the only French horn player you changed off a trumpet last week.
Right.
That's not, we tend to get ourselves in binds by playing music because they sounded good on the recording, but we don't have the instrumentation in front of us to play it.
Mm-hmm.
We want to make sure that as often as possible we play music that we can cover the parts. Now, I've gotten away with a few things. I won't go into those. where I didn't have enough French horns, but I had an abundance of saxophone. And I learned a little trick to make saxophone sound less woody and more brassy. And so I was able to rewrite the French horn parts and put saxophones on them to cover. And actually, at one point, the judge actually said, "Your French horns are a little too loud." And I just chuckled because there was only one French horn back there. But, for the most part, we want to stay with music that we actually have the instrumentation to cover the parts. Number 3, know your band's strengths. If you know you have a strong lower brass section, but your woodwind section is a little less mature, with enough study, enough research, you can find that there are pieces out there that really lend themselves to a lower brass section without taxing the woodwinds,
mm-hmm.
or vice versa. If you got a really strong, real mature clarinet and flute section, but your brasses aren't particularly strong, there are pieces out there that are written where the woodwinds are carrying the brunt of the work. But once again, that takes study. You have to be aware of what you have and go find music that fits it. Okay?
Right.
Number 4, if you have a young band particularly, choose music that is melodically enjoyable. Here's a trick. If you can find a piece of concert band music that you discover that your students hum even when they're not in concert band, you've got a winner.
Okay.
Because if the students enjoy humming the pieces, they enjoy playing them. When they enjoy playing music, they practice it more. Okay, I have two daughters that have gone through high school band. One is in college now, one's in high school. And one thing I love seeing them do is when they bring their music home, they will get to a computer, go on YouTube, and find the song and play along with it.
Yeah.
Once again, that's something that I'd never had students had the opportunity to do that. So think about how that is developing their ear, playing in tune with other folks even when they're not in class, really learning the character of concert band pieces. But they wouldn't sit down to the computer and play along with it if they didn't enjoy the music.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying? They'll spend time doing that because they enjoy hearing the pieces. They enjoy playing along with them.
Or were you forcing them to do that?
You know, it's funny that I put very little pressure on my own daughters as far as practicing go. I do ask them, have they practice? They will come get me and ask me to practice with them, those kind of things. But the reason I haven't put as much pressure as I would is because I wanted their high school band director to be the one to lead their music education.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they're there for. You know, they both play in a church orchestra with me, so I'm the music educator in church. But the band director in the school needs to be that music educator. You understand what I'm saying? And I didn't want to get in the way of that. So we want to pick music again. I mean, think about the pieces that you enjoy playing in college and high school. You can hum them to this day.
Earth, Wind, and Fire. Earth, Wind, and Fire. I could get right now and play some Earth, Wind, and Fire, man. I'm getting crunk just listening to you talk about melodically enjoyable. I mean, all the funk tunes, trumpet players, you know what I'm saying, out there. Play some Can't Hide Love or Love's Holiday. That's something you try to put the CD on. I was so excited when I started learning these songs, you know, at being part of the marching band. You know, I was just happy just to put on my CD when I got to my room and play them. Because, you know, I'm starting to recognize things, you know.
The same thing that can occur in concert band. Now, you bring up a very good point, and I'll mention it right now, that concert band does not only have to include those old mainstays that we remember from doing concert band. Concert band arrangements can be made of popular pieces, particularly the pieces like Earth, Wind, and Fire and the bands from the 70s and early 80s, where there were a lot of foreign parts. And I'll have to plug it here. A company like Block Band Music that can take those songs and make a concert band arrangement out of them will keep your kids engaged because they're playing music that's melodically enjoyable, you know, that they're familiar with. And you can utilize those songs to teach intonation and phrasing and articulation, particularly with Earth, Wind, and Fire. If you ever go back and listen to those guys play now, I mean, it's incredible. You know, it wasn't just loud. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
There's very particular articulation in the way they laid things down.
Right.
There's plenty of accents, plenty of dynamic changes, plenty of phrasing in that music. And think about how if some of those songs were arranged for concert band. It would be a great way to keep the music alive and still musically educate your students. So coming up with a variety of music is a very good point, too. You want to play a wide variety of styles and genres of music within your concert band program as well. When you do that...
Dr. Davenport, I think Rashad's mic going off. Rashad, did you want to say... I see your mic going off. Did you want to say something, man?
Yeah, I was just going to jump in real quick. I think that really gives us an opportunity to kind of speak on something else. And the topic may be slightly more controversial, but I definitely really wanted to hear your opinion on it. You are absolutely correct. Block Band, through our arrangements, we are actually able to create pretty much any song. So if you have a movie theme or something that you want to play, we've done a ton of like Transformers songs. We did it for middle school bands. We've done a lot of contemporary music and done it into a concert band situation. And, the thing about it is that a lot of times, band directors, if they're trying to find something fun for the kids to play, they end up playing something that really doesn't have a lot of percussion parts and things, and it's really not written for the band to be at its best. That's kind of where we excel, is to be able to take a piece that's fun, but also do it in a way that's challenging for the band. But in some situations, and this is not all band directors, but in some situations we have come across band directors that have said things to me like, well, we don't do that. Like, all first semester they might be playing, Michael Jackson, whatever. But when it comes to second semester, when they get into concert bands, like, no, we do, if it's not Holsinger, if it's not, Holtz, if it's not Swearinger, we don't do that. And it's kind of almost implying if it's not by this particular type of people, it's not quality music. And, that really kind of bothers me. It really does. It bothers me a lot. Particularly since there's a lot of good, particularly like a lot of great music from the 70s in particular. Like you look at anything by Teddy Pendergrass, and you look at all the orchestration that's going on. There's a ton of music in that. A ton of music in that. And yet, taking that and put it into a concert band situation where you get the opportunity to play something challenging and it's rewarding for the kids, the band director, and the audience, and somebody would try to keep their kids away from that. It just bothers me. Can you speak to us that a little bit?
Well, and you have, unfortunately, have people that have grown up with the philosophy that, if it's not strict concert band literature by the greats, it's not worth playing. But what you do in that case is you can lose students by sticking with that role. As I said, you need to have a wide variety of the styles and genres of music that you do in concert band. We need to get our students to respect our music as legitimate music. And you have some directors that won't even give that a chance. And I wouldn't go all the way to the other side where in concert band every piece is a popular piece either. There needs to be a blend. We always try to do in concerts one or two quote-unquote light pieces of music. What light really refers to are pieces that are recognizable by the band and the audience, so they're much more entertaining to the ear of the average person. That needs to be, any school concert needs to include a few of those pieces in it. And as you said, there's plenty of music that still can be used to educate, but come from the African-American community. And I think with younger directors, you'll start to get a change in attitude about that when they are able to pull out music or get arrangements of our music that actually does have dynamic changes, does have articulation markings in it, is forcing the kids to phrase. So some of them are speaking through past experience. Don't take it personal. Don't take it personal. A company like Bach Band has arrangers that will spend the time to write a piece and make sure that it's
melodically enjoyable.
Material.
Yeah. That's
enjoyable,
cool.
But education material at the same time. There's not a lot of that out there, and that's what you're going to fight against. So once again, don't take it personal. Prove them wrong, and kind of move on with that. The fifth thing, and I want to make sure I get this in, is make sure that if you're in an area where you have to take your concert band to adjudication every year, be sure before you start preparing the piece that it is on your state list.
Right fast for us, us young rookie educators. What does adjudication mean?
Well, it's where in a lot of states, either you're required or highly suggested around March or April to take your band basically to a festival where there are 3 judges, and you go and you play 3 concert pieces, and you're judged on how musically you play those pieces. In a lot of cases, it can be a very political thing, but it can also be extremely educational for your program. But as a band director, you can't be thin-skinned, because sometimes your program really gets torn apart with the truth of what you need to be working on. So in those areas where there is a state assessment or adjudication or festival, there are lists that are published of what music is acceptable in that state and which are not. And if you've got a piece of music that you want to play that you're going to take to adjudication, you need to make sure very early on whether or not it's on the list, whether or not it's still in publication, and can you get it in time to use it. And let me put this out there now. Anyone that is in that situation, you should be deciding on what you're going to play next year in adjudication now, so you have time to order it, so you have time to make sure you can get enough scores for it, and that you can find a very good recording of it so you can study it ahead of time before you present it to your band.
Okay, so could you give me that 5th point again, since I understand what adjudication means?
If the music you're choosing is for adjudication, be sure that it is on the state or county approved list.
Okay.
Okay. How much more time we have in this segment?
3 minutes. We have 3 minutes left in this segment.
Let me give when you're warming up your band to play these pieces, there are a couple of suggestions I'd like to give you for making sure that you have the most optimal rehearsals that you can have. One is study the pieces, and in your warm-up time, go over the scales for the keys that are used in those songs. So if I've got a song that's going to be in the key of F, my F major scale has to be one of my warm-up scales. The kids get to hear that intonation and that sonority in their ear, get ready for the fingers necessary to play in that key. And if you're a brass player, you know what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. You need to get that in your mind before you start playing the piece. Secondly is use rhythmic studies that deal with the complex rhythms in that particular piece of music, and use those, even if you go scales note by note, using that rhythm on each note, that will get the band warmed up to practice. And within your warm-up, play things, particularly out of an ensemble warm-up book, that make your students concentrate on dynamics and phrasing.
Okay. So right quick, we in the warm-ups, in that particular, because I know you did talk about the literature for some warm-ups or whatnot. In those warm-ups, when you're hitting those scales, make sure that the students know each scale, so they're recognizing the key.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Key. Also hitting the rhythmic studies as well, so they're recognizing the rhythms. And then the last one, could you give me the last one again?
Doing studies that deal with dynamics and phrasing.
Right, okay. Phrase, that's right.
Yeah, so it gets their minds warmed up to consider how they're going to phrase, how they're going to change dynamics, the balance within the group, that kind of thing.
Okay, that is definitely here. So just wrapping up this this segment here was just some of the points from earlier in this segment. When we're selecting our literature, we want to be honest. Number one, that's definitely the key out of what I heard you saying, but being honest with the musical maturity level of your group, being honest when you evaluate your band. I know Mario Warren, he threw something in there. We were talking about this. He was talking about festival variations, probably of music. And then he had an LOL behind it. So now, I see.
one of the pieces I conducted at Tennessee State when Mario was in the band.
Okay,
Look,
okay.
It's a rare band that can play that piece.
Yeah. That's what's up, man.
High school or college. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. So, it's all, like I say, it's always good to have those folks there in the chat room. Knowing the instrumentation of your band, know the strengths of your band. If you have a young band, find that music that's melodically enjoyable. I think that's my favorite one. And make sure you use the music that's selected on the state list. Make sure you do your research about the music that you're going to select for adjudication. Make sure that music is on the list. And then you gave us some extra stuff because of the time with in warm-ups, making sure that the students are emphasizing the key, the rhythmic studies, and the tonation and phrasing. Sound decent. Are you okay, Rashad? Wrapping up with part B of our podcast, man.
Just as you were, going back through the summary, just realizing also that there are arrangements of concert band music available as well that can be created, at your request through many sources. Although I hate to plug myself like that, but I don't think there's a better source than our company, Block Band Music.
Yeah, about to say, please do, because like you say, like you it's cool that you're being humble about it, but I think it really goes to the actual significance of the point about what's melodically enjoyable. You know what I'm saying? I get crunk about certain things that I'm going to pick up my horn and just start playing in my room. You guys would probably be able to understand that because of, the similarities that we have. And definitely what we reach out to, even in the African-American community, we're going to be quicker to, like he said, grab some Teddy Pendergrass versus Joseph Haydn. You know what I mean? So besides that, when we can apply that great music education to those Teddy Pendergrass to make those rhythmic and those phrasings that we're concentrating on in our warm-ups, I think it does tie in together why block band music is so important and why we definitely should put people out there to arrange your music.
And I do want to put this out there as well, and I hope Rashad doesn't mind, that through Block Band, we're actually working on a suggested concert band literature list that Block Band is going to work on having in stock if band directors want to order it through them. I mean regular standard concert band pieces, along with whether or not they exist on your state's list. So we're in the process of doing that. So even traditional concert band literature will be able to be ordered through Block Band. And I think that's important. Is that right?
That's outstanding.
That is correct.
Absolutely.
That's outstanding, guys. So let's go ahead and pay the bills, as they say, in this next segment, and then we'll go ahead and we'll focus on you, the callers, and even you, our folks out there in the chat room. We'll go ahead and hear from you guys and hear your feedback. We'll reiterate and go back over some of the points before we close out for the evening. So thanks for listening. We have a good number of people out there listening and having another great discussion, as we did in part one. You're listening to the 2014 90 Degree Director Series with Dr. Kevin O. Davenport, the owner and founder, and like I said, man's choir director, the great Rashad Waters, and here at the Marching Podcast Network.
My name is Rashad Waters, and I'm the owner of Block Band Music and Publishing and the infamous Prune Juice on the fifthquarter.com. And I love the 90 Degree Show on the Marching Podcast Network.
What if there was a Facebook for bands? Wait a minute, there is. Bandhead.org. Bandhead.org is a social network for HBCU show bands. You can create your own profile and post videos, photos, and comments on Bandhead.org. Need somewhere to post events, audition schedules, job postings? Check out Bandhead.org. Are you recruiting for talent? Go to Bandhead.org. Bandhead.org, a social network for bands.
Need to write music and drills? Get it on the field. Outfit your band. Keep your administrator happy and still have a life. Encountering drama in the process, ain't nobody got time for that. Let block band music assist you with musical arrangements and drills to fit your band, and also the equipment, gear, and accessories to keep the visuals, music, and marching on point. Contact blockbandmusic@gmail.com and see how this worldwide minority-owned business can uplift your band.
Hey, this is John Pickens, CEO and founder of Simply Dope Creative, and you're listening to the 90 Degree Show here on the Marching Podcast Network.
All right, we are back, and we are ready to reiterate a lot of our points here, and we're back here. Dr. Davenport, I go ahead and give you the mic here for Part C of our podcast. You're also welcome to call in at the number you see there on the screen, 718-664-6025. You go ahead and take over, sir.
Joe, I just wanted to launch a complaint real quick, if that's okay, because I don't know if everybody recognizes, but the gentleman that introduces the show, and also one of those that has done all the block band commercials is my father, and you can hear the richness of his voice. Not everybody hears that, but like right after we would cut the commercial, you hear me talking, and the treble on my voice is way too high because my voice is much lower than that. I mean, everybody can tell that, I've got the Barry White thing going on, and I don't know what was happening with your recording right there, and I just want to put that out there.
Yeah, I got to redo that. I got to redo that one, man. Yes, but that was the great Charles Cheese Waters. I remember he said he go ahead and he said I got to put my name out there. I said, all right, the guard Cheese Waters. I was like, that's all right, man. So, but yeah, we appreciate his time, and he's a really great voice, and we definitely gonna be, giving him some more work here in the future. But definitely, I appreciate that, Rashad. You said that you had a good voiceover person, and other than Pops, you can't beat out that, man.
Exactly.
So, Dr. Davenport, you have the mic here for Part C.
Okay, I want to go back and talk about one of the things I started very early on when I was doing the original bullets, and I know we had a discussion on this yesterday, and that was that concert band should be an all-inclusive program and required of all of your marching band musicians. I discovered in my teaching years that many times, particularly freshmen coming into high school, were intimidated to be in marching band. They didn't know if they could physically handle it. They weren't comfortable enough on the instruments. So a lot of them tended to shy away from marching band, but they still wanted to play their instrument. I allowed any student that was an instrumentalist in the school, whether they were in marching band or not, to be in my classes, mainly because class time was used to cover scales, techniques, and concert band. And by doing that, not only did I make sure that I spent time preparing my students to be musicians, but it also served as a strong recruiter for marching band. Sometimes I would have, by the end of September, pick up an additional 30 instrumentalists because I didn't run them away because they weren't in marching band. They came in and got in the class, got comfortable with what was going on around them, and then wanted to join. So we want to be careful of how we run students away simply because they don't want to do marching band. We are if we're going to be music educators, it is our responsibility to educate every instrumentalist in the school, not just those who show up for summer band camp. I was expecting to get a comment back off of that. Okay.
Okay. I guess that's coming at me there. Let's see. You didn't quite give me the trigger phrase that I was waiting on, so I'll go ahead and bridge the gap. And for the listeners, we won't pretend like we just came up with this. As we were preparing in what Joe calls the green room yesterday, Dr. Davenport and I had a very lengthy discussion on this particular topic as far as who is required to be in marching band. And
right quick, Rashad, that wasn't you. There was a little audio. Sometimes the internet does that. There was a little audio gap between the last thing he said and what we heard. So So as soon as I heard, so it was funny. It happens sometimes, but I heard you say the very last phrase that you said, and then I was hoping a response after that. It was like you said it in the same sentence. So you caught me off guard, but that's just the internet space talking, y'all. That's all.
Gotcha. But when I first started teaching, of all the listeners, I had, as I mentioned earlier, I had a very small band program initially, and I think many people who are taking over from a band director who just left have very small programs. My story was I had about two trumpets in the marching band and one trombone and about 15 drums, some other miscellaneous instruments. And but I was fine with that, and we were really building a very disciplined, organized program. It wasn't until I started, the actual school year that I got a class list like that day, and that class list had not 18 kids, but 60 kids. And I was not prepared for this at all. Instead of having two trumpet players, I had now like 4 to 5 to 6. And one would think that would be great. I had 4 trombones. I had every single student in the high school band in one class. That one thing was very hard, all the way from the top. I mean, most people would think, wow, that would be a good blessing because now your band program is getting much bigger. In actuality, it was a great hindrance because I had built such a rapport and such a level of discipline with the marching band kids that when we started going through the same music in class with the concert band kids or with the rest of the band program, they really slowed down everything. Truly did. They didn't have the discipline. We didn't have that rapport. And Dr. Davenport had mentioned that I can't remember what he said exactly. But my thing was, I felt like, if I had to do it over again, I would have set something up that basically would have forced those kids that were in that class either to get in the marching band program or basically get out of the class. That's my feeling, because then I could have, disciplined them a little bit more the way I wanted to, and life would have been happy.
But what you do in that instance is you actually stifle the future growth of your program because now you run off potential musicians for later.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why, in my philosophy of things, as far as in class, and I know this is hard the first year. Let me say that right up front. The first year is probably the most difficult to approach this way. But what happens in a classroom goes back to that thing I mentioned about being co-curricular. If what you're doing in the class is the same thing you do after school, then you just got extracurricular during school.
Mm-hmm.
If all you're doing is working on marching band music in class, all you've done is taken your extracurricular and pulled it into a class. But what I would do in a class, knowing that some of the students were not in marching band, was I spent my time in class teaching scales, teaching rhythm, working in technique books, working on musicianships for every student, whether they're in a marching band or not. On the occasion where I had to cover marching band music in class, the students that were not in marching band had an assignment where they had to learn particular scales or a particular etude, and they were given individual practice time during class while we worked on marching band music. Because the problem that you had in that particular instance was you had a bunch of students that were playing music that had no relevance to them. They didn't care whether the marching band music was right or not because they weren't in marching band. And that's what slowed you down. But that class time, in order for your band to be a co-curricular thing, that class time needs to be spent on technique, on building musicianship, on learning music theory. And what you will find as your program continues is spending that kind of time in class speeds up the process of learning new music in marching band because now you've developed musicians. You develop students that can read. So when you pass that piece of music out on Monday in band rehearsal, by Wednesday the band knows it. Because as musicians, they can take it apart and learn it, and they memorize it quicker because they already know how to play it. So that would be my suggestion in that situation. But we don't want to run. a instrumentalist, it is so valuable to us in most of our programs that we don't want to run anyone away if we can avoid it. So meeting every student's needs are what we need to consider during class time.
And you also bring up another good topic that we talked about for a while, and I had mentioned to you that even though I marched in the Core Style High School when I was in marching band, we still spent, our marching band season working on marching band. But I have talked to several, strong band directors, particularly those who are show style, who have talked about, having the marching band after school. Great band directors who I consider to be really good, like, Brian Millsap at Dudley when he was there, Walter Harley, who's currently at Oxford Mills High School in Maryland. These are, really great programs. But they talk about doing only concert band during the day and only marching band after school. And I hear that and say, wow, that sounds like a really great idea, but I have never been in a band program that did that. And so it's kind of beyond me as how would you even do that without feeling fear every Friday that you're not going to have enough time to get this music done?
Well, and the way you avoid that is by prior planning. Let me kind of give you an example. Before my bands left summer band camp, they knew their whole first show, which means it put me in an advantage because now in that first week of school, they already know the first show. Well, I'm already passing out music for the second show. So I'm not pressed in teaching a piece on Monday that has to be performed on Friday. That piece may not be performed for 2 weeks. So it takes prior planning to get in a situation where you can handle the music that you need to for marching band in marching band rehearsal by always being proactive and preparing your music weeks in advance. And also in class, by working on technique, by working on concert band, by working on reading, when I go to pass out that next piece of music in marching band, the students are much better able to read it. So I don't have to spend as much time on it. I'm not spending Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday just to get them to be able to read the notes and rhythms to play it. When they leave rehearsal on Monday, they can play it. And then they are responsible for having it memorized by Wednesday. So you can see where that speeds the whole process up and keeps you from getting that trap. See, the main thing, and it kind of leads me back to the points we talked about at first. Marching band for most of us is about every week preparing for that performance at the end of the week. It's not about music education. It's about entertainment. But if all we've done is taught our students through 4 years of high school is how to prepare to entertain, we have done them a disservice. Because we have not trained them to be musicians. We've trained them to be performers. Concert band, we're playing music that we may not have to perform for 4 months, which gives us time to work on technique, to work on intonation, to work on phrasing, to work on dynamics. And those things that they learn from even one piece become transferable into everything else that they play, marching or concert. And that's where we need to do our teaching. And the many students that we can get involved in a high school playing their instruments, the more solid our programs will be. That's when our programs become co-curricular instead of extracurricular, because we're actually teaching musicianship.
And it's part of, like you said, it's just as important as nouns, learning nouns, learning the elements on the periodic table, all of that stuff. I think that's actually something that's actually being slept on, that music is too much considered extracurricular, and across all levels, cultures, colors of folks, it's being slept on throughout the entire nation, really, I think.
My doctoral dissertation was on the effect of participation in an instrumental program on standardized testing. And one of the results of my test in Maryland was that a student that was it registered in instrumental band the same year that they took what's known as the HSAs, the high school assessments here. Scored 16 points higher on the English section and 15 points higher on the algebra section than students that were not in instrumental music.
Wow.
I mean, that's profound. And think about it. Now, if you go to your principal saying that my program, you raised the school's test scores, you have now made yourself relevant.
So,
right?
Dr. Davenport, can you tell us, so what happened in Joe's situation? Because Joe was in the band for a long time. Some test scores, man. No.
Well, let me, you remember in our conversation yesterday, Joe left high school not a musician. I hate to say it. He was a band member. Am I right?
Oh man, hey, I was all ready to march somewhere in somebody's band. I wasn't tripping off. That was one thing when I read my scholarship, they were saying you have to be part of other ensembles. I was like, well, what other ensemble is there other than the Boom? You know what I'm saying? What exactly what else am I supposed to be doing? And then I was like, what's applied trumpet class? You know what I'm saying? What is all this, But that's that music side that you were exactly talking about then. And for me, I guess my excuse was because that music excitement wasn't in St. Louis for any aspect. That black college experience is what excited me. So that's where I dove into. I didn't know that being in symphonic band was where I learned. So, it's funny you say that. Then my second year, we had a symphonic band and we had a concert band at Jackson State.
Absolutely.
I, of course, was in the concert band, you know what I'm saying? But that was cool because I had to learn somewhere,
Well, and as I said before, in teaching at Tennessee State, we ran across students that we literally had to put back into the beginning band book and teach them how to play before we would allow them to actually participate in the band, because they were not musicians. And there's no way that they could have handled the music load that was being thrown at them if they couldn't even get out a solid B flat. Or could not read 3/16 notes running together.
Mm-hmm.
But we did not run them away. We offered them the opportunity and developed a class called Developmental Band, where we taught them how to play the instruments as if they were beginning students in middle school. And some of them went on to be very good, very active musicians and band members later on. Well, it's our responsibility to make them musicians. We do not and did not believe in horn holders. And, I applaud Dr. McDonald at Tennessee State now, because he does concert band in the fall.
Really?
Dr. McDonald at Tennessee State, Reggie McDonald. They actually have concert band class in the fall.
That's all I wanted to hear. That's great. I mean,
Absolutely.
Good for them, but I don't want to think about that like they getting a marching band better. I didn't want to hear that.
Well, it can't help but strengthen the marching band because they're developing musicians. It's the exact
I don't
same
want to hear that.
With Dr. Davenport, that really kind of it really helps to solve a big situation. Once again, I'm just going back from personal experience, but I think a lot of my stuff relates to other people. I taught in schools in my career, and the first one we went all the way to the championship game for the playoffs. So marching band season never stopped. And for my second school, we went to the game before the championship game. So when it came to, hey, let's do Christmas concert, I was at both schools. I had to go to my principal, and I was sorry for this, but I had to tell them, I can't do a Christmas concert. We have been marching banding. I've been trying to just hold the band together all year. But if I had found a way with what you're talking about to be able to somehow, even though it would have been outside of my grasp now, hopefully if I had known you, it would have helped me, But to have a concert band program going on simultaneously with the marching band program, maybe when it, hey, all we had to do was just shut down marching band because concert band was still going on.
Right. You already had a chance. Or even this. If you had spent the time from the beginning of the year working on technique, rhythm studies, scale studies, those kind of things, so when you pass out the concert music, the band could read it, you could have prepared a lot quicker.
They would remember those exercises.
Yeah, you can have musicians sitting in front of you.
Now, we did do a lot of that. We did do a lot of reading, but just, being familiar with the literature and the difference in, in the type of music they were playing was kind of, even more so than the kids, it was hard for me to take the time, as I'm trying to, okay, do we switch shows? Do we just keep doing the same show? Are we going to have a game next week or not? And while in the midst of all that, gosh, what the heck is good? What should I play for them,
And see, this time of the year, as I mentioned before, just like we plan for what we're going to do in the fall in marching band, during early summer, I was always planning what music I was going to pass off for concert band.
Mm-hmm.
That way I knew what scales I needed to start the year with teaching them, what kind of rhythmic studies that I need to start using for warm-ups. So I've covered all of that by the time I get to concert band. I picked the music out so far in advance that I have covered that when it is time to pass the music out. Remember I said one thing that band directors have to do is they have to study and they have to prepare well in advance.
That's
well
deep.
in advance. Yeah. If you're not preparing well in advance, or you're not being proactive, you will always be under that stress level of what am I going to do now?
You were saying that last week, too, is just about preparation. It's the same thing, preparing in advance. Or you get scared, nervous like I do. You know what I mean?
And we want, band directors need to have the stress level lowered as much as possible. We know that. But the only way that you're going to get that done is by planning well in advance. Yes, things come up, but if you have planned out what music, before you ever end the spring, what music you're going to use in the fall in your competition show, then you can make sure they have that music before they ever leave to go for the summer. So now you're ahead again. So it's always about being proactive and staying ahead of the game. One thing that I taught when I taught music education in college was teaching my students how to take a piece of concert band music and forming their lesson plan from it. So warm up, vocabulary, rhythmic study, scales, all out of what piece you plan to go over and practice. Now that can be done for marching band or concert band literature, but once again, that takes planning in advance.
Mm-hmm. So we actually come to the end of the show. Well, we got about 2 minutes left. I want to give you some time to wrap up. I want to run through the points right fast. We started off with the first 4 questions where we framed everything. Are you planning to be a band director or a music educator? Is your program extracurricular or co-curricular? Do you plan to develop a band or a band program? Band members or musicians? Then we actually broke down when actually selecting the literature, we need to be honest with the musical maturity level of our group. We need to evaluate our band honestly. We need to know the instrumentation of our band, knowing the strengths of our band. If we have a young band, we need to find the music that's melodically enjoyable. We need to make sure we select that music that's on our sight list. And warm-ups, we emphasize on rhythm, phrasing, and keys. And concert band, I think this is the gel and the stem of everything, but concert band is all-inclusive. And that's where we start everything basing that base from is that concert band. So we got about 60 seconds left, and I'll go ahead and give you the rest of the floor, Dr. Davenport.
Well, one thing I hope that we get out of this discussion is not to slight our students from the concert band experience simply because we have limited experience in preparing and conducting. If you want an excellent program as a band director, you have to go out and be about studying and becoming better at your craft so that you can give your students a quality music education. It's important that they get it not only for the music, but for the discipline and the confidence they get out of being able to play music well.
Well, that's outstanding. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back with part 3 next month. To you, Dr. Davenport, Rashard Waters, and themarchingpodcast.com. We thank you.